Welcome to another video about Nix, a stream rather, and a video. I'm a little tired right now. Today I'm going to be talking about daily driving Nix for the last year. On the left here I have everything I wrote earlier. I was just sort of like brain dumping. And then on the right are some resources that I have pulled up that I'm going to reference in my talk. Um, so, um, I suggest that you write comments about your experience with Nix below. And I'm also pulling up chat here. But this is going to be long. It's kind of meandering. And it talks about where I'm also planning on talking about like where I am currently with um, how I feel about operating systems and like using things daily and um, stuff like that. So let's see. Just trying to understand. Okay, here we go. All right, um, so I've been daily driving Nix for the last year. I'm going to be reading from this a lot. So if this is like too slow of a pace for you, I suggest you, maybe find another video or whatever. This is a lot of fields. I will talk about maybe some technical stuff, but um, yeah, this is not going to be particularly curated. I'm just sort of like brain dumping because there's a lot of stuff that's been on my mind. I've been using it every day. Um, and obviously you can tell I'm pretty tired right now while I say this. So it's not going to be my best. The other distros I've used are Windows, Mac, Debian, and Ubuntu mostly. I maybe have tried a couple others. I don't know. But I started with Windows, and Windows is sort of what I used because that's what was around me. Like that was the first computer that was introduced to me, and then when I was 18, um, I got a Mac, and I really wanted a Mac, and I used the Mac to game. I like wanted a new computer. I got a Mac. It was really exciting. I used it to game. I used it for a while, and then I used Macs for a long time. I never went back to Windows after using Mac. Um, and and then I knew about Linux kind of because someone in tech that I knew would talk about it for a really long time, but I didn't like it. Didn't process like I didn't think about it. It's just after I started using, I thought back to being who first introduced it to me. Um, and so I started to learn to code, and pretty quickly learning to code, I realized that if I remember correctly, this is a while ago now. I realized that um, you Mac and Windows have these sort of huge walls around them. It can't really leave the wall. Um, and and so it's really hard to build, right? If let's say you're trying to build a city or something, right? Which is kind of what coding feels like, um, or can feel like. Um, and you can't build a city past these walls. And so I needed something different. And so um, I was interested in Linux now, right? And I chose Debian, I think, because it was stable, right? I was like, it's a big change. I want something that doesn't change a lot. It seems like Linux has a lot of nascent, they're called distros, right? There's Linux is a sort of catch-all term because it's what's called a kernel. And there's a bunch of different operating systems built on top of it, right? So there's a lot of different, you can choose, there's a ton of stuff to choose. So I just wanted the thing that was stable. I chose Debian. I ended up using Ubuntu, which is basically like, I'm going to say a user-friendly version of Debian. Um, and, and so after having used all these operating systems, Mac feels like the computer you use when you're trying to get things done and you want to do the least amount of problem solving possible, right? Like if you have the money or whatever to have a Mac and you're like, I don't like dealing with computer stuff, like Mac is probably the one to use, right? You're just trying to like do stuff that most people use in our technological age. Windows is the operating system you use if it's what you've always known, are forced to, right, by work or whatever. Well, for lack of a better term, forced, right? You have to do it, but it's maybe not your first choice. Or you're a gamer. My understanding is that Linux has a lot of gaming stuff now. However, for competitive gaming, Windows is still a thing, and this is mainly due to the gaming developers at the current state. I'd like it to change, but whatever. We're not really going to talk about game much here, unless people bring it up in chat. So Debian and Ubuntu feel like they're built for stability and usability, respectively, right? Debian for stability, Ubuntu is sort of like usability built on stability. And NixOS feels like nothing I've ever used before. I love it, and it drives me nuts. So for right now, it's possible you have to be a developer to understand why it's so lovable. Plenty of people talk about what's great about it, and I'm not going to do that in this video or the stream, unless people ask. All I can say is it's the first operating system that seems to be built for how people code, whereas most operating systems are built and then people figure out how to code them, right? It's like a machine might be built for a purpose to get something done, but then someone might build a machine specifically for a person to operate that machine, and that's how Linux feels. What drives me really nuts in terms of being able to use it as a new developer, sorry, that's what drives me nuts. Like, and basically, I'm going to go on a little tangent here before I start this next section. Basically, if you're a new developer, you're learning a language, right? And you're learning to talk with a computer or computers. And so you're not learning a language from other people, really. It's mostly just researching and trying to interact with this machine. And Nix has its own language, and in order to use Nix, you really need to learn that language somewhat. And so, right, because if a problem comes up, you have to do some interacting with the Nix language. And so, like, let's say you're learning Mandarin, right? And you're on your Mandarin game every day, and then all of a sudden, someone requires you to learn Russian to continue to learn Mandarin. That's really like you're like, wait, what? So you have to stop learning Mandarin to learn Russian. That's how it feels, and that's how it operates. And I didn't understand why at first, until a talk given by this person, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. I believe it's a Russian name, Ihar Rachishka. It looks like he does have a website. Yeah, so this is it. I'm pretty sure this is the person. But he basically a graph. I guess I can put that website here. He basically showed a graph of Nix packages, and the short of it is that Nix packages are always out of date. And they're always out of date. I won't get into why or whatever. That's kind of beyond the scope of this talk right now. But because they're always out of date, because Nix packages are always out of date, there's always a bunch of stuff broken, right? Like if I'm running Nix, like there's always just even stuff that works, parts of it that are always feel kind of broken. And that's actually been fine for the most part because it's still usable. However, the developer thing has really been an issue, right? That's the thing that I haven't been able to get around. Um, so, uh, so Nix has been around for a while, and it's really picked up in how much it's been used lately. Apparently, I don't know. I'm one of the people who's recently picked it up, but that's the vibe I get, right? Really kind of grown in the last year, maybe two. So it went from being nascent to being something that people actually use on a daily basis for computing. The thing is, it's still nascent. It changes more quickly than any other OS I've used, which kind of gives me the feeling of being dragged along by it. Updating the system breaks more things with it than any other OS I've used. Um, but the thing is it's kind of like a happy being dragged along in a weird way because it is like it's just so obviously to me in a weird way it feels so obviously to me that it's the future of computing, like the way that it's built is the future of computing. And so it's almost like I don't really I'm scared to give a comparison because I don't really have a lot of hands-on experience with different technologies. That it's like if there's something that you love but also you're like, oh, okay, but I have to learn this new thing. It feels like you're being pulled into the future in a weird way. So this is, I think, because of the problem that person illuminated Ihar, or you say that person's name. The Nix packages are almost always out of date, or there's just a bunch of out of date packages. Um, when we update new Nix, we have to update the packages, and there aren't too many people maintain packages relative to how many people use the packages. Uh, I'm saying this poorly to the point of inaccuracy, but this is how it feels. Um, because, yeah, whatever. I can't. I'm not going to be able to put that into words right now, so I'm not going to. Um, but I will give a sort of comparison. If you've lived in both the country and the city, you know the difference. It feels like that. Other operating systems are cities where there's a solution for everything as long as you're willing to pay the people or systems around for the solution. Living in the country, one must figure out their own solutions for everything. There aren't systems around to help. Because of this, broken things are more difficult to trash, recycle, or fix, and they just hang around the area. Nix feels like the country. At any given time, a bunch of stuff is broken. The most essential stuff for driving daily has worked for me. If I remember correctly, it's been a year, and I've certainly put some time towards problem solving. But here's where it's been incredibly frustrating as a new developer. When I first started developing, at least one book said, don't upgrade your system if you're in the middle of a project. I learned quickly why this made sense. It was also very difficult to abide by, right? Like, with Nix right now, it feels impossible. I'm a new developer, so I'm mostly learning by making lots of small projects. But if I have to update Nix in the middle of one of the larger projects, it's rough. Or say I get partway through a project and then Nix updates and the people maintaining the packages move to the new version. So all of a sudden I'm halfway through the project. I need some software, but there isn't a package for it. So now I have to learn how to package the software with Nix for an older Nix version in order to finish my project. Okay, that seems like a lot, but I guess maybe I could do it. But now I have to learn the Nix language better. So rather than learning languages I was learning in my first developer language, I'm learning the language of my operating system in order to package software. So this was too much to deal with recently when I was just trying to get through an intermediate developer textbook. Apparently I needed a break. I loved NixOS. I didn't want to remove it from my computer in favor of another operating system. I feel strongly that dual booting is stupid. I decided to get a new PC, but being interested in hardware, being frugal, and hating the idea of buying what seems like overpriced hardware designed specific for Linux, and would it even work with NixOS, right? Because it's not designed for Nix. No one's building hardware designed for Nix that I know of yet. If you know of something, please write in. I decided I was going to build my first PC. This took about a month, or a month and a half or so. And I looked into it many times before. So I kind of already had an idea of how I was going to approach it, how much I was interested in spending, and what I wanted to do. So it might take other people longer, right? But my just way is to research stuff a ton generally for a long period of time. And then when I make a move, I sort of go all in on the move. But I've done a lot of research, so I can move kind of quick once I do make moves. So Nix wouldn't be on the new PC. I want to use NixOS for everything, but while learning to code to build the idea that originally got me coding in the first place, Nix was proving to be too difficult. It's just too time intensive, and it's like, am I getting off course? I don't know. Am I going to use this for production? I don't know. So I don't even want the PC I built because of the way everything turned out. It made sense for me to build a PC for CAD for another project that won't seem to lose my mind. I figured I'd build a PC, sell it, and make or lose a little money, and learn enough to know what my next PC would be for coding. I may have gotten carried away, and after using Ubuntu and GNOME for a day or two on this PC, oh, sorry, not this PC, but a PC that I've been. If you've seen recent streams or videos, you'll know that's that PC. I don't really need that PC, and I'm trying to figure out what to do next. So the thing about software people is that seemingly 99% of them are hardware people, which makes it very difficult to ask questions about what hardware would be best for a specific operating system. Nix or Ubuntu, for example. I like having stuff that is purpose specific. I'm not some it's a little brutal. I'm not some corporate drone who simply uses whatever computer is handed to me. If I'm running Nix, I want the computer that was built to have been built to use Nix. I want the whole system that produces them to have been working for a while, and how to build the best Nix computers, the best Nix ecosystem. Sorry, that's worded poorly. Like I said, it's a brain drop. So basically, I'm just saying there, like, the people who build my computer, I want you to be about Nix. Like, I don't want you to be like, oh, you can run Nix on it. No, I want you to made the hardware for Nix. ThinkPad, nah. System 76, they started with Ubuntu. Now they focus on Pop. That's not Nix, but okay, they make computers. Okay, wow, they look expensive. Used? After I get through all this, by the way, I'm going to go through a bunch of, like, I'll just give some more visuals. I just want to get through the talk first. But I may spend some hundreds on box that won't work. So, all right, so used, maybe, but I may spend some hundreds on a box that won't work, and then I won't be able to get working. That's a lot of money down the drain. Not like a computer that I can build that if something goes wrong, just put Windows on it, replace the graphics card, seemingly the easiest thing to upgrade in a PC, and sell to a gamer. I guess I could do that with a System 76 box as well. I don't know. I haven't looked at big System 76 boxes. I kind of just figured they have open source drivers or something. I don't know. They have something that's special that I can't. But whatever. I didn't go that route. Maybe that's worth looking into. But when you look online, everything's just so expensive. So I still have a daily Nix driver. I still love it. I tried to continue learning Python on it yesterday to a new era that I wasn't expecting after having not coded for 6 weeks. It's not like I write Python code and get the error. I can't even get the packages I need to do the learning I need to do. Or the packages, right? There's like a pathing thing. This is Nix, right? So everything has to be like, I don't know what's going wrong, and I was like, great, and it's a Nix headache. Like, it's the Nix headache that I always have. I still have a MacBook that I put Nix on, and that turns off without warning if I ask it to do anything too intensive. That's because the Mac has no battery in it, and I don't want it. I'm not interested in having a Mac anymore. I don't want that computer either, so that's just kind of been an experiment. I've been in some videos with it you might have seen on the channel. So one video at 720p works most of the time, or maybe all the time. But I never just have one video up at that quality. I usually have another tab open doing some sort of research or work. So if you're going to use it just to watch, and actually I started to watch 1080p something earlier and it just died on me. So I don't know. Um, so I still don't have a computer that I want to code on. And now I have a PC that I built for CAD with Ubuntu 25 and GNOME on it. And I want to sell that ASAP so I can build a computer that I can at least make the mistake of not putting that I at least don't make the mistake of putting GNOME on. I don't know, like I just had like Ubuntu, I just did the graphical user install, which I never do, but I was streaming, where I was trying to get her done. So I don't know. Maybe no makes sense for Ubuntu and a lot of applications. I have no idea. I haven't really used Ubuntu. I mostly just used it to learn Linux to start. But I have come to love the derpy minimalist simplicity of XFCE. So I got the computer I've been rent. The XFCE is a desktop environment. Like if you think of Windows as like what you see on your screen, or Mac is what you see on your screen, that's like I think that's called the desktop environment, but that's not the operating system. They're two separate things. XFCE is the desktop environment. I got the computer I've been running Nix on 11 or so months ago. I have no idea how it's affected the hardware that I would imagine was intended for Windows. I have no intention of stopping using NixOS, and I probably wouldn't be focused on a non-Nix PC right now if I didn't have to break from learning coding to learn Nix stuff so often. I'm concerned this is not just a Nix thing, but a me thing. And soon I'll be complaining about the Snap Store, not being able to fix things, not being able to find things, easily reproduce things, easily package things for other developers, easily update or roll back my system. I think I've only rolled back once or twice. Everyone talks like this is magic. Maybe it's more magical for people who already run things in production or people who are always breaking their system. I don't know. It does seem like magic to me in theory, but like in reality, I've barely used it or haven't used it really at all. So, I wanted to say something here. I had a thought. Yeah, so I'm not like there's no part of me that's like, oh, I'm going to go back to Windows or Apple. Like that's not. It's going to be another open source, like maybe BSD, but it's like it's only open source operating systems here. If anyone has a solution to this learning to code problem or problems I've been talking about, please write in chat or in the comments. The best reminder for how great Nix is definitely to use any other operating system. The only thing I intend to do differently for my next Nix install is potentially look into Lix, which, to my understanding, is Nix, except built by more individual users. It's sort of the less, I don't know, hierarchical sort of thing. I'm actually very curious about Lix. It's basically, I think it's just Nix, but I would look into that. If you're considering Nix or whatever, I would look into Lix as well. If you have questions or comments about Nix, please put them in the comments/chat. I have made a few Nix videos that are on a playlist on my channel. I'm happy to help where I can. I expect a lot of computing to move in this direction, which is one reason why I'm interested in it. It's really like it's hard to if you're holding on to the past technologically, like it's a rough ride. Like it's much easier, I've found, to just be the inventor, like go for the thing you want. Or if something's better, just switch to it regardless of the growing pains. That's been my experience, I guess. I'm not suggesting anything, but that's my experience. But currently, almost everything I see about Nix online is people trying to grab attention from the wave or outdated or incomplete documentation. Or documentation that's been written as if you're already a level 10 wizard. I want there to be documentation for people who are level 1 idiots. It can be in a separate place than the wizard library, but the idiots need a library too. Nix discourse has been helpful. The other thing that has been helpful has been simply giving up and saying, I guess I'm not going to be using the computer for that today. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to see in the comments. So yeah, in terms of, I guess I'm not going to be using the computer for that today. It hasn't been anything that's I'm like, oh no, this is going to ruin everything. At least not to my memory. Maybe a little bit, but I don't know. I very like I haven't really considered being like, oh, I'm not like barely has it come to my mind. Maybe I'll not use Nix. That's just more recently with the coding thing. So, uh, so yeah, I have some different tabs open. I'll just run through my thoughts here. Um, and these are just some talks. Southeast Linux Fest has a few Nix talks up on there, and yeah. So, um, okay. So one thing that I think a lot of people are sort of I guess we'll do the Nix stuff first, and then I'll talk a little bit about these other operating systems that I've mentioned. Um, I'm just seeing define nascent. I was making sure I was using the right word. Okay, here's System 76, and then there's like what? Framework, and then framework computers, and then there's one that's like European. They make System 76 is America. They make computers in America, but there's one that does things in Europe. I guess we could do Purism. They make computers or something, right? Yeah, privacy respected devices. All right, we'll go through some of this stuff. But that's the end of the talk. So this is just me kind of spitballing or just saying my feelings or whatever. So I think one of the things that this is a Nix website, and one of the things that is weird about it, or that's different about it, it releases like every 6 months, I think, if I remember right, unless something has changed. And so like really the small development community that keeps it alive or is trying to grow it or whatever, that's like building packages and whatever, they move to the new one quickly. That's the vibe I get, or that's how it feels. And that like with other operating systems, like you can kind of run older software for a bit longer. With Nix, it kind of feels like you should upgrade much quicker. So that's Nix. Ubuntu is kind of like, I don't know. Ubuntu seems to be like the most general purpose thing I've seen for Linux operating systems. Like if I was going to start, I'd start with that. I've heard of some others like Mint and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't know. And then Debian is like, oh man, I guess it's weird. It's weird to think back on these OSs because I don't really use them anymore, right? I might be using them again here soon, literally just to learn to code. But I did start with Debian, and ultimately, like, I think if I wasn't interested, it seems like Ubuntu has a lot of stuff built out for other use cases that I'm interested in. Debian is more work to get things running, it seems, than Ubuntu. So it's more work, but it's also raw, right? Like you're not going to have as much bloat or whatever. That's how it feels. And then Windows is like, it seems like there's something significant going on right now. It feels like in that a lot of people who are gamers have run Windows, and I don't know what's going on with Windows 11, but it seems like a lot of gamers are like, nah, I'm over Windows after Windows 11. Like, I don't know if it's too much bloatware, they're charging for something, or what's going on. But it feels like there's a lot of people moving into the Linux community from gaming. I'm just looking at the system, the Windows 11 system requirements. There's a lot of people moving in from gaming, and maybe it's because of the system requirements, right? Like maybe it's the economy, and people are like, I don't want to get a new computer. Like, I just wanted to keep running Windows 10, and now everything's upgrading. I'm not into it. It feels like a wave. There's a wave happening right now. People are moving to Linux, and they have no experience with it, and they're like trying to figure out what to do. Um, so it's weird. I've never. I mean, I'm fairly new to the Linux community, I guess, but I have not seen something like this. Maybe it's just the stuff, the bubbles that I'm in. Um, but I would love to hear people's thoughts and comments on that. So let's talk about System 76. System 76 has been building computers for like a while, is my understanding. I've done some research on them. The CEO says apparently they started with Ubuntu. They started just building computers that would run Ubuntu. Um, but when I look at the specs, they are more expensive than like, I don't know, like a Dell or something. And I think because of this, this is because I think they have open source firmware, which is like, again, take it with a grain of salt because I'm no expert, but that seems amazing to me. Like System 76 is doing something that like no one else has really ever done or doing, which is like everything's open source. It's not like everything's open source and like, I don't know. So these I'm kind of obsessed with right now. They're the thing I'm obsessed with that still seems unapproachable. They seem a little more expensive, right? I've thought about getting like a used one or something on eBay. Let's pull up. I guess we can pull up eBay real quick. Let's see. System 76 desktop. I don't know if I want a desktop or a laptop. I don't know. But like, obviously, like I said earlier in this talk, I'm figuring stuff out right now. But right, like this is a pre-owned thing. It's still $800. Okay, this is real sponsored. Let's get out of sponsored land. This is still $300 or something. And what I'm worried about is that it's not. I'm worried I'm going to have something that I can't use. I'm worried I'm going to get something and like something about the open firmware or like whatever. Like, like the thing is when companies are new like this, or companies are maybe not new, but like relatively new, right? Like let's say this is like kind of like Tesla or something. It's like, I don't know if I'm just going to we'll just lose a bunch of money. Lose a bunch of money and be stuck with something that sort of like feels proprietary, even though everything's apparently open source. It's like, I just don't know enough about like how computers work, so the hardware, whatever, that I'm just going to have something. And I'm not one of those people. Like, I'm not someone who wants to own technology. I just don't care. Like, I don't want to own broken things. I don't want to own broken things or things that I don't use. I'm not a collector of any sort. So, and there's tons of those people in this world. As soon as you get interested in tech, you'll realize it's like people who like do tech work are like not very business minded. They're like nerds. They're kind of skeptical about money, generally speaking. Like that's my experience anyway. Or they're like so interested in the money that they like, they don't really care about what they're doing. They're just sort of making a dollar. So then you have framework. And framework is kind of the same deal as System 76. Their idea is to build a modular sort of computer that's easily repairable and stuff like that. My understanding is they get very hot. They also seem expensive. And I don't really know, like what, like they're not built for Nix. They're not built for. Are they built for Ubuntu? I don't know. Maybe I've seen that before. Are they built for Linux at all? Like what? They're just so focused on the hardware. They don't really. Oh, okay. Look, it says Windows 11. Check out our recommended Linux distros. Let's see what that says. Yeah, Fedora, Ubuntu, Bazite, right? So Bazite for the gamers, Ubuntu for most of Linux people, and Fedora for the other most of Linux people, I guess. I don't know. And then compatible, community supported, officially supported, and then compatible, community supported. Yeah, it says NixOS down here, but like, nah, we want officially supported. So that's framework. Framework also seems cool and interesting. It's just the heating thing is like, it seems like, I don't know. I want a good computer. So that's kind of the whole thing. I know I kind of went off on a tangent about hardware here. Um, oh, and then there's purism. These people have also been around. This is all about privacy and like like they make phones and stuff too. I'm not going to go into that really. I haven't looked at this in a while, but yeah. So um, that's how I feel. Thank you for watching. If you have thoughts or experiences, I want to hear about them. I want to hear about people's next experiences. I'm going to end this video right now. And I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Please like if it was helpful, and subscribe if you want to see more of my stuff. And start conversations in the comments.